In the dead of night, under a sky ripped open by a blazing streak of fire, I stumbled upon something that would change my life forever. Picture this, a quiet forest trail, the kind where you go to escape the chaos of the world, suddenly shattered by an explosion that lit up the trees like daylight. My heart pounded as I ran toward the smoke, not knowing if I was heading into danger or destiny. But what I found there, a wounded woman from the stars, bleeding and broken, would test every ounce of my humanity. If this hook has you gripping your seat, smash that like button right now and subscribe to the channel for more epic tales that blend heart, pounding adventure with soul, stirring emotion. Hit that bell icon so you never miss a story that could inspire you to see the universe in a whole new light. Now, let's dive into the full story. I carried the wounded alien woman on my back for hours. Then I learned she was the Empress. My name is Elias Thorne, and I was just an ordinary guy back then, a 32-year-old park ranger in the remote wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. Life had dealt me a rough hand, lost my parents young, bounced around foster homes, and ended up in a job where solitude was my best friend. I patrolled the vast forests of Olympic National Park, miles from civilization, where the only sounds were the rustle of leaves and the occasional howl of a wolf. It was a simple existence, one that suited my introverted soul, no drama, no complications, or so I thought. That fateful night started like any other. I was on my evening rounds, flashlight in hand, checking for poachers or lost hikers. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth after a recent rain. I remember pausing by a stream, watching the water ripple under the moonlight, when suddenly, the sky erupted. A massive fireball streaked across the heavens, trailing sparks and debris. It wasn't a meteor, I'd seen those before. This was something mechanical, something controlled, plummeting toward the earth with a deafening roar. The ground shook as it crashed about 2 miles into the dense woods. Adrenaline surged through me. Protocol said to call it in, wait for backup. But out here, backup was hours away, and curiosity, or maybe fate, pulled me forward. I grabbed my backpack, stocked with first aid supplies, water, and a flare gun, and trekked toward the crash site. The forest grew thicker, branches clawing at my jacket like warnings to turn back. Smoke billowed up ahead, acrid and metallic, not like any forest fire I'd smelled. As I pushed through the underbrush, I emerged into a clearing, or what used to be one. Trees were splintered, earth scorched in a wide crater. In the center lay the wreckage, a sleek, otherworldly vessel, its hull glowing faintly with an iridescent blue hue. It wasn't human tech, that much was clear. Panels shimmered like liquid metal, and strange symbols etched into the side pulsed weakly. My breath caught as I approached, debris scattered everywhere, twisted metal glowing circuits. Then I heard it, a soft, pained groan. Heart racing, I circled the ship and found her. She was slumped against a tree, her body crumpled like a discarded rag. She looked almost human, tall, slender, with skin that shimmered faintly under the moonlight, a pale lavender tint that marked her as something extraterrestrial. Her hair was a cascade of silver strands, matted with blood from a deep gash on her forehead. She wore a form-fitting suit torn and singed, revealing wounds across her arms and torso. One leg was twisted at an unnatural angle. Her eyes, large, luminous violet orbs, fluttered open as I knelt beside her. "Are you okay?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "Stupid question, but what do you say to an alien?" She gasped, her hand reaching out weakly. Her fingers were long, elegant, tipped with subtle iridescent nails. She murmured something in a language like music, melodic tones that sent chills down my spine. I didn't understand a word, but the fear in her eyes was universal. She was dying out here, alone on a foreign world. Without thinking, I pulled out my first aid kit. I bandaged her head wound as best I could, splinted her leg with branches and tape. She winced but didn't resist. Her skin was warm, almost feverish, and up close, I noticed faint scales along her neck, like delicate armor. Who was she? How had she ended up here? Questions swirled, but survival came first. The ship was unstable, leaking some kind of fluid that hissed on the ground. We had to move. "I need to get you help," I said, more to myself, but the nearest ranger station was 10 miles away, through rugged terrain. No roads, no signals. My radio crackled with static, probably jammed by whatever tech she'd brought. Carrying her was the only option. She was light, surprisingly so, maybe 120 pounds. I hoisted her onto my back, her arms draping over my shoulders, her head resting against mine. She whispered something again, her breath warm on my ear. It felt like trust, fragile and profound. The journey began. Hours stretched into an eternity as I trudged through the forest. My boots sank into mud, roots tripped me at every turn. The weight on my back grew heavier with each step, but her occasional whimpers spurred me on. "Hang in there," I muttered. "We're gonna make it." Night deepened, stars wheeling overhead like silent witnesses. I thought of my own wounds, the emotional ones. Growing up without family had made me guarded, reluctant to connect. Yet here I was, risking everything for a stranger from the stars. Why? Maybe because in her vulnerability, I saw my own past self, the kid who needed saving but never got it. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, we reached a small cave I'd used as a shelter before. I lowered her gently onto a bed of leaves, her body limp but breathing steadily. I built a fire, boiled water from my canteen, and cleaned her wounds more thoroughly. She stirred, her violet eyes locking onto mine. "Thank you," she said, her voice halting, accented but in English now. "How? Some tech implant, I guessed later." "You're speaking my language," I said, stunned. She nodded weakly. "Translator, in my suit. Adepts." Her name was Lyrael, she told me. She was from a distant world called Zorath, a planet of advanced beings who traveled the cosmos. Her ship had been attacked. Pursued by enemies in an interstellar conflict, she barely escaped. I crashed here Earth. Safe, I thought. A safe. With me, maybe. But as she spoke, her story unfolded like a tapestry of loss. Lyrael wasn't just any traveler, she hinted at a high status, but pain clouded her words. She spoke of her home, a world of floating cities and eternal gardens. Destroyed by war, her family gone, her people scattered. Tears glistened in her eyes, and I felt a pang in my chest. I shared my own tale, the car accident that took my parents, the loneliness that followed. For the first time in years, I opened up, vulnerability meeting vulnerability. But rest was short-lived. As the sun climbed, I heard distant hums, drones, or something worse. Lyrael's eyes widened. They found me. Hunters from the Dominion, the empire that seeks to conquer Zorath. We had to move again. I carried her deeper into the mountains, my muscles screaming in protest. Hours blurred, crossing swollen rivers, scaling rocky cliffs. She clung to me, her hands gripping my shirt, whispering encouragements in her melodic tongue. At one point, we hid in a thicket as sleek, black vessels scanned overhead, their lights piercing the canopy. My heart thundered, one wrong move and we'd be vaporized. During lulls, we bonded. Lyrael described Zorath's wonders, crystals that sang, skies alive with auroras. I told her about Earth's beauties, oceans, mountains, the simple joy of a sunrise. She laughed softly at my jokes, a sound like wind chimes. But her wounds worsened. Infection set in, her fever rising. I foraged for herbs, used my limited knowledge to make poultices. "Why help me?" she asked one night as we huddled by a fire. "Because no one deserves to die alone," I replied. Truth was, she reminded me of what I'd lost. Connection, purpose. Carrying her wasn't just physical, it was emotional. A burden that lightened my own soul. Challenges mount, a storm hit, rain lashing like knives. I slipped on a mudslide, tumbling down a slope with Lyrael on my back. We landed hard, my ankle twisted, pain shooting up my leg. But I pushed on, hobbling now. Then came the beasts, Earth's wildlife stirred by the alien presence. A pack of wolves circled us at dusk, eyes glowing in the twilight. Lyrael, weak but resourceful, activated a device from her suit, a sonic emitter that repelled them with high-frequency waves. "We survived together," she said, her hand in mine. As days turned to a week, we'd been evading for what felt like forever. Her strength ebbed. Delirium set in. She murmured about her duty, her throne. I dismissed it as fever talk. We reached an abandoned cabin, a relic from old logging days. There, I tended her round the clock, feeding her berries and water. In quiet moments, affection bloomed. Her touch lingered, her eyes held mine longer. Was it love, or the intensity of shared peril? I didn't know, but it healed cracks in my heart. Then, the revelation. One evening, as I changed her bandages, a hologram flickered from a pendant around her neck. It projected an image, Lyrael, regal in robes, crowned with stars, addressing a vast assembly. "Empress Lyrael of Zorath," a voice intoned. My jaw dropped. She wasn't a refugee, she was the ruler of her world, fleeing a coup by the Dominion. The Hunters weren't after just any alien. They wanted their Empress dead to claim her empire. "Why didn't you tell me?" I demanded, shock mixing with awe. "I feared you'd see me differently, not as Lyrael but as a title." Tears fell. "You've carried me as a equal, Elias. That's rare." The truth hit hard. I'd saved not just a woman, but a leader whose decisions affected billions. But it didn't change my resolve. Title or not, you're still the one I carried. We finished this. The climax came swiftly. Dominion forces closed in, their ships landing nearby. I rigged traps with what I had, wires, flares. L'Oreal rallying, used her tech to summon reinforcements, a Zorathian fleet hidden in orbit. Battle ensued, lasers clashing with my improvised defenses. I fought fiercely, protecting her as soldiers stormed the cabin. Wounded myself, I shielded her from a blast, pain exploding in my side. In the end, her fleet arrived, decimating the attackers. L'Oreal, healed enough by her people's medics, stood tall, but she chose me, offered to take me to Zorath. I hesitated. Earth was home, yet, in her eyes I saw a future. We parted with a promise. She returned to her throne, rebuilding her empire with lessons of humility and compassion. I stayed, but forever changed, starting a foundation for interspecies aid, inspired by our bond. The message: in a vast universe, kindness to a stranger can bridge worlds, heal wounds, and reveal destinies. No matter your past, one act of courage can make you a hero. If this story moved you, like, subscribe, and share. Who knows what aliens or opportunities are waiting in your own backyard.